Hi, my name is Darren Joseph from HTJ.tax. We're the team that seeks to demystify this sometimes confusing world of international tax and the privilege of having a deep conversation with Mark. Mark, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Mark Morris. I'm based in Switzerland. I've been here for about 26 years. I've specialized in automatic exchange of information, which originally was the EU Commission's EU Savings Tax Directive. And that went on until about 2014, and they scrapped that and they adopted the OECD's FATCA made into CRS.
So can you share with us what it is you do professionally?
Primarily, I provide custodial services for trusts to hold underlying entities or partnerships or unincorporated funds. So what I do is I provide the administration services for the custodial. I don't do the actual custody. And later on, I'll explain what administration services for custodial is. And I'm an expert in CRS and CARF, and I certainly know the intricate differences between CARF and CRS. We'll get into that in a later question, okay? I've published over 600 articles on LinkedIn, and I'm still writing about 10 a week. And I don't see other people covering 99% of the topics on CRS that I cover.
Okay, thank you.
So next point that you mentioned to touch on was on the OECD's FAQs. And somewhere in the FAQs, they mentioned, depending on GIINs, to rely on an entity being a CRS financial institution. So is this speaking to the interplay between FATCA and CRS here?
Well, funny enough, this is a very important question, because I'll tell you this now. When you do the due diligence for CRS with a bank, they ask you what type of entity are you? Are you a financial institution? Are you a non-participating investment entity, etc.? And you just click financial institution. I'm one of these, okay? They don't do the income test. The banks don't do that. They just said, okay, if you're claiming to be a financial institution, what is your GIIN?
Exactly.
So they're sitting back and being lazy and say, what is the GIIN? Now, this update to the CRS was only done in May this year. You don't need a GIIN to be FI for CRS. And why did they do that? Because they foresaw that the US will not implement CARF. So if they don't, then CARF says crypto is a financial asset. And then the definitions of all those financial institutions are they look after financial assets and so on. So what's going to happen to CARF is these CARF FIs are not going to be FFIs for FATCA. Therefore, they won't have a GIIN. And so now the banks can't be lazy. They can't just sit back. If you haven't given us a GIIN, you're not an FI. Now they've got to do the test. And that's what it says here in the update. And then you're going to have to rely on information, which is a bit of a wake-up call.
It's a good thing, right?
I wonder how the banks are going to do this. I think it's just going to be forced on them, because everybody's going to say, for CARF, and CARF is going to be everybody, I don't have a GIIN. And then what's the bank going to do? I know it. They're going to go lazy and just say, if you don't have a GIIN, you're not a financial institution. And the CRS frequently asked questions, say, no. You don't have to have a GIIN.
So I guess just out of an abundance of caution, an entity would just, because it takes zero effort and 5 minutes to go online and register and you get a GIIN.
Why should they register? They're not an FFI. It's bringing down the entire world on top of their heads, but they don't have financial assets. Crypto is not a financial assets. Okay, so I don't see anybody saying, I'm going to register for a GIIN just to make my bank happy. They're going to say, I don't have financial assets for FATCA, for the IGA, for the regulations, for whatever. And therefore, I'm not an FFI. And therefore, I'm not going to register.
But you can go onto the website, register and get a GIIN, but register as a non-financial entity. You can get a GIIN as a NFFE.
Really? I wasn't aware of that. But what the point of this question is, you don't need a GIIN to be a CRS FI. There are other issues later on, which I'll talk about, when you're a non-participating entity, custodian institution, and you're not going to register for GIIN because there's no IGA. Okay, so then you don't have to register. And if you're not earning income and you don't have America, there's no 30% withholding penalty for not having a GIIN, and there's no recalcitrant persons to report on, because the person will tell you, I'm not American.
Exactly.
So yeah, I was kind of leaving that for later, but it's important to know you don't have to go into a pretzel to register for a GIIN, but I'm an NFE or just to make the bank happy. No, it's actually saying here, the CRS says you must determine it yourself using publicly information, etc.
Okay.
So why go against all that?
All right.